He checked on some of his hives in Florida.
When I pulled into a bee yard in Florida, there was 400 hives of bees that 3 weeks before that looked great. And all of a sudden, here we got roughly 400 beehives that are totally empty.
The bees were all gone.
They're gone.
I mean, where'd they go?
Don't know. I mean, I literally got down and crawled around. I mean, seriously, I got down on my hands and knees and crawled around, and then there's no dead bees. There are no dead bees anywhere. I mean, you can't find any bees. They flew off someplace.
And never came back?
Never came home.
Had you ever seen that before?
No.
Under normal circumstances, bees don't get lost. They have a sophisticated navigation system that uses the sun and landmarks as points of reference. As this European documentary shows, they can travel up to 2 miles in search of food, then find their way back home by following the unique smell of their hive. And once there, they're able to direct other bees to their food source by doing what entomologists call the dance, one of the most intricate languages in nature.
Dave, I've done a lot of things. I've never done this.
Yeah, there's worse things, I think.
Within a few months, Hackenberg had lost 2/3 of his bees. He and his son Davy began calling the Department of Agriculture and beekeepers around the country to see if they were having similar problems. And within a matter of weeks, he discovered that many of them were. First, Hackenberg showed us what a normal hive looks like.
Yeah, how many bees live in this hive?
This hive here, just looking at it, probably got close to 35, 40,000 bees in it.
Then he showed us a hive that's suffering from what scientists are now calling colony collapse disorder, or CCD.
I mean, there's no reason this time of year a hive of bees should look like this.
Not only were there no bees, the hive was filled with eggs and larvae. Bees almost never leave their young. The hive was also filled with honey that not even scavengers seemed to want.
Under normal circumstances in a dead beehive, other bees would have been coming in robbing honey out. And the honey wasn't even, there was no bees even bothering. I mean, just, it was like a ghost town.
Like something had happened to the hive and the other bees knew it.
That's right.
They didn't want to go back in.
Nobody wanted to touch it.
Since Hackenberg made his discovery, 1/3 of the honeybees in the country have either died off or disappeared. Some beekeepers have lost up to 90% of their hives. The Department of Agriculture has set up a working group of scientists from 6 universities, the Department of Defense, and the Environmental Protection Agency to try and isolate the cause. Jeff Pettis of the Agriculture Department is leading the effort.
What do you think the problem is?
I think the problem is complicated. I don't think it's going to come down to a single factor. That we're not going to be able to pin all of these losses on either one factor or even maybe one combination of factors.
Autopsies of bees remaining in the collapsed hives have confirmed what scientists have long suspected, that honeybees in general are not in good health and are afflicted with all sorts of ailments. Their systems have been weakened by mites and other parasites, by poor nutrition, and exposure to pesticides, and exposure to pesticides, and exposure to pesticides, pesticides.
That a weakened immune system is exactly what neonicotinoids produce. When other beekeepers brought their bees to entomologists, the scientists were horrified to discover that the bees' guts were blackened and seemingly destroyed, and there was undigested pollen still in their stomachs. Rather coincidental, don't you think? Perhaps neonics don't exactly cause a lack of appetite, but rather a destroyed digestive system. To quote Graham White, speaking about one of the neonicotinoids, this highly toxic, systemic, and persistent insecticide in the United Kingdom is effectively sterilizing fields of all soil invertebrate life, including earthworms, beetles, ladybirds, butterflies, moths, etc. End of quote. Neonics are known to be highly toxic to bumblebees, honeybees, butterflies, moths, wasps, hornets, beetles, and even hummingbirds and bats. In fact, neonics are so toxic that a bee doesn't need to eat the pollen or drink the nectar of a flower. It just needs to walk on the plant to be poisoned. And how about that loss of memory symptom? We must not ignore the fact that a dying bee always leaves the hive to die. Now, you may have heard it said that neonics were banned in France in 1999, and yet bees are still dying there. This is a partial truth. In 1999, one neonic product only, named Gaucho, which was used on sunflower crops, was banned by the French government for use on sunflower crops. Gaucho is used to this day on wheat, barley, oats, and sugar beets. All other brands of neonics were continued to be used and are used to this day, and they are sprayed on crops and flowers, and beekeepers in France have colony collapse disorder. And perhaps you have also heard about cell phones harming bees. Professor Kimmel of Germany, whose scientific data was misconstrued, is outraged that no one even called him about his data before an article appeared. He denies any findings that cell phones harm bees. And the highly touted new mystery virus called the Israeli Acute Paralysis Virus, or IAPV. IAPV has completely different symptoms than colony collapse disorder. With IAPV, the bees have what is called shivering wings. Then they develop paralysis, and they die outside the hive in visible little piles. They don't disappear. Seemingly, IAPV is not the real culprit, but just another opportunistic invading virus. By the way, did I mention that Bayer Crop Science distributes neonics to 100 countries? Neonicotinoids are the chemical names. Imidacloprid is sold as the brands Confidor, Merit, Admire, Legend, Bravado, Encore, Gaucho, Premise, Connect, Evidence, Leverage, Murala, Bravado, Trimax, and Advantage. Thiamethoxam is sold as the brands Actara, Platinum, Helix, Centric, Flagship, Cruiser, Adage, and Meridian. Clothianidine is sold as the brands Poncho, Titan, Clutch, Belay, Arena. And the least toxic of all the neonics, thiacloprid, is sold as the brands Alanto, Berryard, Biscaya, Calypso, Monarcha, and Proteus. Do you find it coincidental that a worldwide phenomena of bees disappearing is occurring where these neonics are sold? Isn't it curious that in the last 5 years, Alzheimer's has increased, and autism in children, which is a loss of memory, and bizarre or disoriented behavior, has likewise increased? And now what are we seeing in our high schools? 90,000 children with such weakened immune systems that they have succumbed to staph infection in the schools that used to only occur in hospitals. However, if you are a mother or a father, are you not outraged that our government has done no tests to verify whether or not neonics that we are now forced to eat in so many of our foods and produce are in fact safe for human consumption? Oh, that can't be true, you say. Well, guess what? The EPA simply asks the chemical companies for their data about whether or not these chemicals are harmful to humans. Think that somebody would have heard of a health study done by Bayer or anybody regarding the effect of humans who had been consistently fed over a period of years foods or produce where the food was sprayed, as it was growing with neonicotinoids, or the seed was coated with neonicotinoids, such as sugar beets are today, and then planted and we ate it. Don't you think there would have been a study like